Welcome back to Omni Garage. So the Ford Mondeo behind us here is getting a little bit of love this week. We've done a service on it. We've done the oil change, the air filter. We just kind of stood back and looked at this car, and it's a perfect test pilot to play with some new products on, some new tools, and show you guys just what you can achieve. This car here is about it's got about 120,000 kilometers on it. It's 2017. It's about 6 years old, and I think it's safe to say this has had a pretty hard life when it comes to washing procedures. Used to be a company car, and I imagine that it has been through the automatic car wash probably hundreds of times, and it shows. It shows on the paint, it shows on the hard water spots on the glass, and then the piece that we're going to look at today are these pillars here. So this is a really common thing to have even on a car that has been looked after. Your gloss black pillars are pretty prone to scratching up, especially with improper wash techniques. So we're going to tackle these today and show you just how easy it is with the right tools to get these looking really nice. It's actually quite excited today because we have one of the new Rupes machines here. So this is the HLR75. So this is the iBrid Mini. This is essentially the replacement for the 3-inch corded machine that we have been using for a couple of years now. I'm really excited to get some hands-on time with this tool. And I mean, the biggest benefit to it is it's battery operated, so you're not having to lug around a cord at all. It's going to be so nice to pair this with another new machine that we've purchased, which is the iBrid Nano as well. So the whole idea of working on this project and chipping away at a few things on this car is twofold. Nice to have a bit of a project and just have a play around with some new products, some new tools, but also get to show you guys how to do some of these things, or how we like to do these at the same time. So I'm going to have some hands-on time with this. I'll work on one pillar. Glenn behind the camera will get some hands-on time as well. So I get to break this in. I'm pretty excited. So we're using Sonak's CutMax. We'll pair that with the, what's this? This is the Meguiar's microfiber cutting pad. And then we will finish polish with the Sonak's Perfect Finish on the Rupes yellow pad. And then we've got Carpro razor, which we'll use to remove the polishing oils. Car's already been prepped. It's nice and clean behind us here. So we're good to go. So we've got our Sonak's CutMax here. We've got the microfiber pad on there. Typically what we would do is we would spread the product into the pad using a Rupes claw tool. When I'm working a really small area like this, I'm just going to prime this on the actual paint of the car. So we're going to put a few dots on here, more than what we would do typically to top up as we're working. And then we're going to go to a low speed, and this is the first time we've used this machine. So we've got a speed dial 1 through 5 on the side. So we'll just leave it really low, and we'll just spread some of this product in. I want to work on this pillar here. I already feel it's quite awkward. I don't really know where to put my hand on this tool. The other one I used to come over the top, but you've got your trigger right here, so it's going to take a bit of getting used to. So I'm primed up on there, and I think you're going to end up bumping it as well. It's going to take some time to get used to this new tool. So we'll apply.
I think almost when you're coming off, you probably want to turn the dial to the off position so that you can't bump it.
Do that. Yeah, you're right. Probably go back to 0, because if it's on anything, you're going to end up bumping it, aren't you?
And then you end up flinging polish everywhere, and that's not ideal. So maybe your best practice is to turn that off at the dial.
Yeah, I think so. And then also the speeds. I mean, I used to compound around 4 on the old machine, so I might try that on this one here. We might go about 3.5, and we're just gonna see where we fall.
Just before you start, I think it's also important that when you are working with glass and things like that, if you are interested in not getting polish into trim, then it is probably best you tape. So typically we would be taping around here, this sort of trim, because if you get polish stuck in here, it makes it look quite chalky and white colored. This is a car that's not going to the showroom. This is nothing. This is just to show you this, but I would recommend taping up some of this trim here.
100%. I mean, this I'm not too worried about because we do have the products that we need to remove the any polish from the trim. And to be honest, on this car, I'd probably like to go all the way around once I've done working on the glass, the pillars, and really give it a deep clean. So you're right, if this was a newer car or this was a client's car that had bought it in, everything is getting taped up on here, but for this one, this needs a clean anyway, so it's just a good excuse if we do get some polish on there to probably bring that job a bit further forward. So we're going to go speed 3.5 and we'll just see how this goes. I'm wondering if that's the best way to hold it. We'll figure it out on the fly.
Straight away I'm noticing it's a lot quieter than the old tool.
Yeah, the other one that we were using, the corded 3-inch, I mean that thing, it was really torquey, but it sounded torquey as well. I think it's quite quiet.
At least you can sort of work, you could still have a conversation. I mean, it's nighttime here, so we're also not waking up the neighbours, which is also quite nice and pleasant.
So we'll go through, so if I'm awkwardly hold this here, speed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so even on speed 5, it's not awfully loud. I think we can comfortably polish with
this. And the mics will pick it up louder than it really is in person.
Absolutely. So like it's right here, so it's close to me as well. I'm just finding it awkward to figure out, like I feel like my right hand should be using the trigger, and for you, left-handed, you'll probably feel like your left hand should be using it. I feel like you almost need to come over the top and use your palm. I'm gonna try both ways. And then that tip, yeah, I think you got to flick that to nothing because you're going to end up at a point where you have polish on here and you fling it because you've got your speed still set on. That feels so nice, just not being constrained with a cord over my shoulder.
Well, it's super easy. You can now take that outside. You can blow off the pad. You're not having to maybe uncoil it or, you know, unplug it and then walk outside. You can just shoot off. So I really like the way that the battery world has allowed us to, move in that kind of direction.
So we've done, I don't know, that was probably about 3 or 4 passes there. It's made a huge difference. Still a few scratches in there that we do need to pull, so we do need to hit that a few more times, but I mean, that's night and day. Hopefully you can see that through the camera just on a couple of passes.
So you polished the right one and you didn't go up that high. So scratches, 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 you didn't go up that high, but look at the right, and as we come down, you can see the scratches disappear. You're right, they haven't all gone, but you've made an improvement there, which is really nice to see. And you know, when you come into the corners here, this is probably where you want to go into the 1-inch on the iBrid Nano just to get a little bit better. But
yeah, because it is quite hard to work into, you know, at the top you're probably all right, but when you are getting down low here, because the edge of the tool, you don't want to be banging that up against the panel of the car. It is quite tough to get in there, and that's exactly right. That's where the iBrid Nano comes into it. So I'm going to go over that again. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the top part of that to the same kind of level of finish there, and then we'll refine it further. Yeah, I got to hold it that way. Have to hold it that way. Way more comfortable. Oh, it's so nice. I just don't feel like, I mean, I've used it for 3 minutes, but I don't.
Do you get much pad stall? Enough torque?
Nah, there's enough torque on here. I mean, I'm polishing at speed 4. There's plenty of torque in there. I don't think there's as much torque as the corded machine, just by feel.
That tool was pretty torquey though.
It was, but I think a lot of that could be the sound.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's where I'm thinking that this is not as torquey. This feels really smooth, and I feel like this feels the most natural way for me to hold it, which is almost like palm here, hand over the top, and I can use kind of this bit in between my thumb and my index finger here to operate it. Versus the only other way I could think to operate this would be holding it like this and kind of really clawing at it. But this feels really, that feels really comfortable. I'm gonna wipe that off, see what the results are looking like. We will need to hit that with another few passes. So the haziness in there as well, that's just a byproduct of using Sonax Cut Max. So you're always going to have to refine it with a finishing polish, in which case the pairing to that for us would be perfect finish. So the haziness will be removed. If you're looking through the haziness and you still see scratching in there, you're going to need to do additional passes with your cut max, which is exactly what we're going to need to do now. This probably is going to require another...
I think you need to do another couple of passes on that pillar.
Yep, totally agree. And
you need to reactivate that pad, because doing pillars and stuff like that, if you're accidentally bumping into trim and whatnot, it makes the pad go black. So look at the bottom of that.
Yeah. I mean, anything like that, you are pretty much going to write off your pad. We're going to do these, you probably do the pillars on the car and then that pad is pretty much in the bin, but you're right, the fibers in there are that compacted into the pad now that they're really doing nothing. It's just acting like a towel. So it's where the Rupes claw tool comes into effect.
And you're going to reactivate those fibers. You might, at this point, you might want to go outside and use your air compressor and blow that pad out. We don't have one of those, so we're not going to be doing that. But see when you reactivate the fibers on there with the tool.
Well, you can see the, I don't know if you can see that slight dusting. That is the compound actually coming out of that pad. So if we had the air compressor set up, we would go outside, and that's another benefit to this tool, is that we can just shoot outside. You're not having to drag this cord with you, which we're really constrained by, and especially when we're both in the garage working with machines, it became a real pain to not get tangled. I'm gonna try speed, we're gonna go 4, see how that goes. I wanna spread this lower. And it's not a variable trigger, I've noticed. The trigger is...
It's an on-off.
It's like a spring trigger, but you're either,
To get rid of having to have your hand there, would be nice if you could... The old one was a flick on and a flick off.
There's no lock on here.
No.
That would be really nice. So we've done another 4 passes on this here. It's really tough to see because we've got a lot of holograms in here and a lot of haze from the cut max. So what we've got now is we've got our Perfect Finish by Sonax. So we're using that on the Rupes yellow pad. We're gonna do some initial passes on here, which will start by removing the haziness. Then we'll get a really true reflection of what scratches may be left in there. Until you pull the haze out, especially on something like this being piano black, you're not going to have a good understanding of what's beneath it. So we may go to this and then we may have to go back to the compound once we've removed the haze just to see how deep these are. But from a distance, I mean, I could stand back at 2 meters and theoretically you could leave that alone.
The other thing you've got to consider here is that we're using light directly on that. We've improved our lighting conditions, and so we are basically viewing this in the worst possible case. You won't be doing this when you're outside. When you park at the supermarket and you look back as you lock your car, you're not going to have this kind of lighting condition, even in nice sunlight. So we do this purposely. Detailers use lights purposely to bring out the worst conditions so you can see what you're working with. So, and that's good for us because we can show you before and after that, you know, with some improvement.
Now the reason I'm dabbing this product on rather than like smoothly spreading it is just what I'm getting to, I guess, the terms with this new tool. That's the easiest way for me to ensure it doesn't fling everywhere, then go on a slow speed and then ramp it up. And I found like 4, just over 4 is kind of a sweet spot. May not be the case for the Perfect Finish. I'm gonna dial it back to about 3.5. I feel like the 3.5 on the old machine is putting more torque out than that. So maybe 4. Maybe 4 is my sweet spot. Yeah, I feel like that amount of torque is better for my finish polish. And a pillar like this as well, it is so easy to put scratches back in it. Yeah. I can look at that and go, yeah, I'm going to do a couple more passes, but the passes will be with Perfect Finish, not with cut max. So once I've cut through that haze, you can see that that was what was tricking me. You look through that surface now, and it looks pretty tidy. It's quite nice to see it side by side with the other pillar there as well. Actually, if I step back from the car, I'm stoked with the results.
I'll try and get it, but you can see the shadow of the camera and stuff, which isn't ideal, but... So yep, I can see even on camera there's a few scratches here and there, but I mean, there's a huge contrast compared to the before and after here, and even if I come sideways as well.
And Perfect Finish by itself will remove some scratches. What I'm going to show you here, just before we continue tidying that up, is on our untouched pillar over here. If I was to work just a small section, I'm just going to do this top bit here, and I'll show you what Perfect Finish by itself would do. It's just that really small section that we've worked there, just to show you, if you didn't compound, what comparison you'd be looking at. So I mean, Perfect Finish by itself can make a pretty decent dent.
So you can see just as we come up and down, yeah, you don't remove all the scratches like what we did on the other side with the Cut Max. There's still some in there, and the camera's definitely picking it up, but I mean, when we compare it to that, huge difference. And then when we come over to the other side, it's had a bit more work done onto it. Still a couple here and there, fine ones, and then same when we come over this side.
What do you reckon? Time for you to get some hands on?
Yeah, sure.
To the pillar on the left.
Yeah, it's nice. I feel like it's well balanced enough that you can almost use one hand.
I was thinking that when I was polishing. I was actually just watching your technique. So you use your right hand the same as I was using my left hand on there. You're left-handed, I'm right-handed. You were using your bottom hand slightly differently.
I use stuff weird compared to other people, so I'm naturally left-handed. But my guiding hand is this. I think I've got a lot better fine motor control with my opposite hand, which I don't quite understand. But I feel like I'm holding this with this like that. Yep. I quite like the feel of that. There's some nice like rubber grip around there, which is different to the other tools.
Yep.
And I feel like my thumb is just enough to sit there, and I'm guiding mainly with this hand, and I'm using this just as a nice comfort position, help stabilize the tool, maybe help with the lift and stuff like that. But this is a guide.
What do you think about torque? You don't spend a lot of time with that other 3-inch.
I didn't really notice it. The 3-inch, because the 3-inch is the old 3-inch, the Rupes one with the cord, has way more torque than the 5-inch. I spend a lot of time on the 5-inch. I feel like that machine is low on torque. I don't really notice it. When you notice where you need torque is when you start to come up to areas where there's contour.
The power through.
And I feel like if you don't quite get the pad, that's where torque can help you out a little bit. You know, you got to be a little bit careful with that. On flat pillars and things like this, you don't really notice it. If I was to really dig into it and really push hard, which you probably shouldn't be doing, you probably get pad stall. But I feel like I just had nice weight, let the pad do the work. Nice, that does have a nice shape for this part of the hand. Like it's thin at the top and rounded, so yeah, I like the feel of this actually. Do I think that's going to hurt my wrist over time? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean it's
doing that motion. Maybe.
I typically spend a lot of time on a detail on that tool.
I see why people do get a bit upset with the shape of that and there is a lot of debate over this ergonomics of this tool. It's definitely well talked about, but no, I mean, I've used it for 2 seconds, but I feel like it feels natural in your hand. You look a bit awkward when you did it, but it does feel natural, right?
Yeah, I mean it's first time using it, so we'll get used to it, and hopefully it's a sign of
the real key here. And we've noticed in the last 20 minutes that we've been using this tool, you got to turn it off when you're taking pads off, when you're brushing it, when you're moving around with the tool and you're not on the paint or on the glass or wherever. You bump the trigger. The trigger is real bumpable.
Yeah, so you got to dial it back to zero.
Turn it back to zero, as if you're using that thing on the side as you're on off. Back to zero, and then when you bump it on the top there, then no problem.
So Glenn's getting this ready to do some perfect finish and hit the remainder of the pillar.
Super smooth, eh? Did you feel like it was super smooth?
Yeah, it even sounds smooth. I actually just went inside the house and I went outside the garage door just to try and get an understanding of the noise that the machine is outputting, because there's no way we could have ever used the old 3-inch at night. It just put out too much noise in the house, but it also carried down the driveway as well. This thing, you had it on full bore, and I couldn't hear anything in the house, and it was audible in the driveway, but certainly not something that was unpleasant. So we've just done our final pass using Perfect Finish, and I mean, this is night and day difference from what we started with. I mean, have a look at the result on these. So Perfect Finish pulled out all of the haziness and took some additional scratch removal in there. As I said, Perfect Finish by itself, for light scratches, does a pretty good job. So to finish up something like this after you've hit it with a heavy compound, it's certainly a product that we lean on all the time. Perfect Finish is our #1 finishing polish, although our compounds still a little bit undecided. We're trying a few different ones.
Yeah, in the past we've used Cut Max as our most heavy hitter, but we definitely are in the market. Well, in that cabinet there, we've got a whole bunch to try out because we need something more aggressive, and we'll find it eventually. But I mean, those results, yep, there's still some scratches in there. Yep, this is a pretty old car. Yep, the back pillar, and I suppose for you guys, the right pillar is a little bit more munted than the
if you just
pillar.
Come along and have a look at that, and then go straight from that pillar there to that, and just show what they looked like beforehand.
So there's that pillar, and then here's the new set. And the reason for the back pillar being in probably worse condition is that this car was owned by, what would you say, an older couple?
Yeah, it was an older couple.
And so they would be mainly be sitting in the front seat. So I guess the left pillar is the door that would be open a lot of the time.
Yep.
And I guess the back pillar would be the one that would be getting bumped into. The hand would be on it to get in and out of the front seat of the car, right? So
it is.
There's a few little justifications for the difference there.
Yep. So really for us, we're going to use this car as a bit of a test pilot to try some of the new products, to try some of the new tools. And after polishing these, you kind of look at the glass next to it, both sides, particularly this, like look at how bad the water spotting is on there. So that's probably going to be our next little project, is that we'll come along.
I can't really see it. Oh, there we go. You can see it coming in now. Yep, we'll be able to get this glass looking nice again.
Yep, so we'll be able to use the Nano. I think the Nano is perfect for something in here. This is an area that we never would have been able to really get to properly with any of the machines we've had prior. We can't get to it with this. This is going to be good for the majority of this glass, but we're really going to be able to start getting some hands-on time with the Nano to work on some of those. So we're going to end up with a car that's like beautiful down
well,
one
it'll be in
side,
stages. So as we make videos, this car will slowly get corrected in stages. This is not how we usually do it. We usually do it all in one go, but we need to make videos, and so we'll do this step by step. And
it's quite enjoyable doing it this way as well, where we can spend an hour in the garage mucking around with a couple of products, having a play, and not being on the clock to get a whole car done to get it back on the road. We can just chip away at this. The intention is not to get this car looking perfect and then code it, but I think we could almost draw a line down the middle of this car and we'll end up with it beautiful on one side and then terrible on the other. But it'll be a bit of fun. We'll certainly, it'll keep us busy shopping for detailing products as we continue to try and evolve our detailing arsenal. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. We really enjoyed using this new tool from Rupes. I love not having a cord on here, so I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on with the iBrid Nano as well, and then hopefully, please Rupes, SEMA this year. We want to get rid of that bag up there with a big 5-inch machine and go cordless on everything. So thank you very much for watching. We will see you guys in the next video.